Why you miss that motorcycle. More than some people, you're driving past a coffee shop on an ordinary Saturday morning when you see it. Same model, same color, maybe even the same aftermarket exhaust. For half a second, your attention leaves everything else. You notice the shape of the tank, the angle of the mirrors, the instrument cluster, even that tiny flaw you used to complain about every time you cleaned it. Then the rider starts the engine. And before you can explain why, you feel something in your chest. It's strange, because you may have sold that motorcycle years ago. You've owned other bikes since then, faster ones, more comfortable ones, maybe objectively better ones, but that one still shows up in your searches, in old photos, in marketplace listings you have no intention of answering. Someone hears you talk about it and jokes, "You missed that bike like an ex." The uncomfortable part is that the comparison may be closer than they realize, because sometimes you can go months without thinking about people who once occupied entire chapters of your life. Yet one familiar exhaust note can bring back a version of yourself in seconds. So, what are you actually missing? The motorcycle? Or the person you became every time you got on it? From the outside, attachment to a motorcycle can look like simple materialism. You liked the machine, you spent money on it, you customized it. You enjoyed the speed, the sound, maybe even the attention. And sometimes part of the attachment is that simple. But certain objects stop being just objects because they become present during experiences that matter to us. That bike was there on the first warm ride after winter, when you took the long way home because you didn't want the day to end, during a breakup, a move, a bad year, a great summer, a friendship that no longer exists. The motorcycle didn't just remind you of those moments, it participated in them. And riding is unusually good at creating memories that stick to the body. Think about how much happens at once: the vibration through the bars, wind against your chest, fuel in a garage, cold air through a jacket zipper, the engine changing as you roll on the throttle, tiny movements of your hands and feet becoming automatic. Years later, your mind may not consciously be thinking about that period of your life. Then you hear a familiar engine, and your body gets there first. One sound can pull up an entire emotional landscape before you've even formed a sentence about it. But sensory memory is only part of the story, because for many riders, a motorcycle also offers something adult life often makes surprisingly difficult to find: a direct relationship between choice and consequence. At work, you can do everything right and still get ignored. You can send the email, make the call, prepare the presentation, pay the bill, have the difficult conversation, and still have no idea what happens next. Family problems can drag on. Relationships can stay ambiguous, even when you're trying your best. Then, you get on a motorcycle. You shift, it responds. You brake, it responds. You lean, it responds. You make hundreds of small decisions, and the machine gives you immediate feedback. It doesn't give you control over life, but for a while, your attention matters and your actions have clear consequences. Psychologists sometimes use the term self-efficacy for the feeling that you can act effectively and handle what is in front of you. On a motorcycle, that feeling can become physical, especially when you remember how the bike felt at the beginning. Maybe it seemed heavy or intimidating. Maybe slow speed turns made you tense. Maybe you stalled at a light or overthought every corner. Then, little by little, the machine changed. Except the machine didn't change. You did. What once demanded all your concentration became familiar. Your hands knew the clutch. Your body understood the balance. You learned the weight, the quirks, the sounds that meant normal, and the sounds that meant check this. The bike became evidence. Evidence that something which once scared you could become something you knew how to handle. And this is where attachment starts moving away from ownership and toward identity. Because some motorcycles become tied to specific versions of us. The version of you who had fewer responsibilities, the version who rode with friends every Sunday, the version who had just moved to a new city and didn't know what came next, the version who was rebuilding after a relationship ended, the version who took solo rides because it was the only hour of the week when nobody needed anything from you. So when the motorcycle disappears, something else can disappear with it: easy access to that identity. And this is also where the story becomes more complicated, because the same attachment can come from very different places. For one person, riding is simply joy, curiosity, skill, community, a healthy form of autonomy. For another, the motorcycle may also become one of the few places where life feels emotionally predictable. Machines can be frustrating, but their problems usually follow rules. A strange noise has a cause. A dead battery has a cause. A worn tire has a cause. You inspect, test, adjust, replace. People are different. People can say nothing's wrong when something is wrong. They can change expectations, misunderstand you, disappoint you, or leave you with questions that have no clean mechanical answer. For someone who finds interpersonal uncertainty exhausting, a motorcycle can feel unusually peaceful. Not because they value machines more than people, because the emotional demands are different. A bike doesn't need you to explain yourself or decode mixed signals. For an hour, there is the road, the machine, your body, your attention. That can be freedom. It can also become protection, and only you can really tell the difference. Do you ride because you love what happens when you ride, or because you cannot tolerate what catches up with you when you stop? That question isn't meant to ruin the pleasure. It makes the attachment more honest. Because sometimes the motorcycle you miss most wasn't even the best motorcycle you owned. It was simply attached to the life you miss most. Listen to how riders talk about an old bike. They start with the motorcycle, but soon they're talking about the place they lived, the friend they rode with, the two-lane roads outside town, the diner they stopped at, the summer when every weekend felt open. They say, I miss that bike. But hidden inside that sentence may be something much larger. I miss having fewer obligations. I miss feeling brave. I miss being good at something. I miss disappearing for a few hours without explaining myself. I miss who I thought I was becoming. Nostalgia does this. It compresses an entire period of life into one symbol we can point to. And a motorcycle is a powerful symbol because it wasn't sitting on a shelf while your life happened. You were moving through the world on it. That's why buying the same model again can feel so tempting. Maybe you find one with the same paint, same year, same pipes. You sit on it and everything looks familiar. And yet something feels off because you can recreate the machine without recreating the chapter. The road may be the same. You may not be. So before you decide that what you need is your old bike back, it may be worth asking a different question. What did that motorcycle make easier for you to feel? Was it freedom, competence, solitude, friendship, spontaneity, control? A sense that your life was still opening instead of narrowing? Maybe riding, again, really is part of the answer. But maybe the longing is also pointing towards something your current life is missing, and no purchase, no matter how perfect, can restore that by itself. So the next time you see your old model at a stoplight and feel that sudden pull, don't dismiss it as ridiculous, but don't romanticize it either. Pay attention to what came back with the sound of that engine, because you may not be grieving metal, rubber, and gasoline. You may be remembering a version of yourself that once felt easier to reach. And maybe the real question was never, why did that motorcycle mean so much to me? Maybe it's this: what part of me was alive when I had it, and where did that part of me go? If a motorcycle immediately came to mind while you were listening, tell me which one in the comments. And if this changed the way you think about why we miss certain machines, subscribe for more psychology hidden inside ordinary behavior.